shouldn't be doing heavy industry on Earth.
Do you get that? We're going to zone Earth as residential and light industrial. People are laughing, but he's not joking. Who's going to have the high ground? Who's going to have the ultimate eminent domain? It's going to be people like Jeff Bezos. He purchased the Washington Post. And it was interesting in that interview, he also said, hey, the Washington Post was essentially a little colloquial newspaper. I'm turning it into a global news source. And of course, he has a tremendous amount of influence with laws there in Washington with that, of course. And when we look at Bilderberg, which is going to be coming up, we're going to talk about that in the next segment, as well as Britain trying to get out of the creature of Bilderberg. Remember that Jeff Bezos attended in 2011 and 2013, and when we talked about it back in 2013, we said this at INFOWARS. It said, for the Bilderberg gang, the idea of owning space and being able to pick and choose who gets to leave this planet when they get done sucking it dry must be awfully attractive. Look, Bezos is working towards monopolizing the retail business with Amazon. Perhaps what he'll do if he gets through with this plan is monopolize manufacturing in space, manufacturing it in L1, and then just dropping it to you when you order it on Amazon Prime, because you won't be allowed to manufacture anything. When we come back, we're going to talk about Bilderberg, and we're going to talk about the effort to get out of what Bilderberg created in Britain with Brexit. Stay with us.
Tucker Carlson, great to have you here with us.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me.
Wow, where do you want to start with the whole Facebook situation?
Well, I mean, I don't have much to add to it other than Glenn Beck behaved in a pretty self-discrediting way, I thought. I mean, it's interesting to see people around billionaires. I've got nothing against billionaires. I'm impressed by people who make their own fortunes, of course. But I also don't feel the need to slavishly suck up to them, to lick their boots, and he does. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I actually talked to somebody else that was there, and they said the same thing that you said. How many people total? Refresh folks' memory. Where did you meet? What was it like?
We met at Facebook HQ outside San Francisco, probably 15 people. Some of them you would recognize, some you wouldn't. And basically we listened as Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg and Peter Thiel and a couple of the top engineers over at Facebook explained that they're really worried that they're going to be perceived as liberal. They understand that, you know, they're mostly liberals who work there. Of course, that's the pool from which they fish. And so they think it hurts their business if they're perceived that way. And so they're going to try to be perceived, to do everything they can to make conservatives believe they're not discriminated against them. You know, it was kind of what you'd expect. What I didn't expect was to see Glenn Beck stand up and say, you know, you're just a remarkable innovator. You're an amazing person. And anyone who criticizes you is obviously a fascist. And it was, you know, it was ridiculous. He humiliated himself, I thought.
He also said that Zuckerberg looks you in the eye all the time. That's what a psychopath will do. I get in German culture, they also look in the eye. I look folks in the eye a lot, but it makes people uncomfortable sometimes, so I start looking away. It's not that I'm trying to hide something. It's that for whatever reason, I found when I look people in the eye too long, they start basically, you know, bumbling around.
They do. It's, you know, in some cultures, it's considered really an invitation to physical violence. It's considered way too assertive, too aggressive. I didn't notice him looking at me in the eye. I was sort of looking at Sheryl Sandberg and Peter Thiel, and Zuckerberg was fine. I didn't have a strong reaction to one way or the other, but they were more interesting people in the room, in my view.
Now, I don't normally go off people's looks, but if we pull up a photo of Zuckerberg,
I do.
I'm being sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic, sure. He does look like he could actually play Nosferatu without any prosthetic fake teeth. I mean, he does have vampiric teeth.
That is hilarious. He didn't go for my neck, I'm proud to say.
You know, we're not prepared for this, but guys, just type in his name. It's like the official photo they put out with his face leering. He looks completely scary. And of course, I'm being a little bit sarcastic here, but getting serious. Tell us what you really think about Glenn Beck, because I'm not here just to bash other talk show hosts. I don't really do that. I agree with a lot of what Glenn Beck covers as a supposed libertarian, but he wanted to be the leader of the whole movement. He did a lot of stuff behind the scenes on affiliates we were on and with sponsors. I mean, this guy really, I learned, has vendettas for everybody and thinks he's the king of the universe and should run everything. I was told that by people at Fox. One time I was there to go on other shows, and the Fox high-level producer, a name everyone would know, has their own show on Fox, but also produces stuff, came over, had a steak with me at lunch, or part of a steak. They had a smaller steak. And I sat there after I'd just been on The View, and he looked right at me and said, Glenn Beck is climbing the walls that you're about to be let in to be on a bunch of shows. And I said, well, I've already been offered a show. They want me to do a pilot with Mancow. I turned that down last year. And I said, why does he care? And he goes, look, trust me. He runs the whole place. He's probably going to get kicked out. He's crazy, but he thinks he's Jesus. And now that was the quote. Now I've been told that by so many others. What was your take of Glenn Beck?
Well, I mean, my general view of Glenn Beck is that he's super talented. I mean, he's much more talented than I am. That's for sure. Radio, as you know, is great preparation for any kind of broadcasting because you have to fill all this air by yourself, and it takes a talented man to do that. Again, more talented than I am. Glenn Beck is a really talented guy. But when he started to conflate his own radio career with some sort of religious mission, you know, he lost me. And I mean, I'm a pretty mainstream Episcopalian. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I didn't understand it, but there was this mystic element that crept
It's cultic.
to his rhetoric. I mean, it made me uncomfortable. I will say that. He had this weird rally on the Mall. It wasn't clear what it was about, but it had something to do with elevating him as a spiritual leader. And that's where he kind of lost me. I'm a kind of meat and potatoes, cable news guy, journalist. I've done it for 25 years, pretty straightforward. You know, here's the story. Here's what I think it means. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not here to redeem people or to save them from hell.
Well, the really creepy part is him saying he has the only answer, and that Cruz is this anointed one, and that the children are their new priest, and that if we don't do what they say, we're going to hell. That is Jim Jones territory.
Well, it scared the hell out of me, I got to say. And again, I don't want to be judgmental, but it freaks me out when people talk like that. I mean, this is politics. The point of politics is, by definition, it's a secular endeavor. We're trying to solve differences without violence, without reference to the hereafter. We're trying to do this in a sort of reasonable way using logic, reason, right? And when you all of a sudden start imputing religious motives or significance to the politicians you support, then it gets way too heavy and weird for me. And also, by the way, the implication is, if my guy is the Messiah or I'm the Messiah and you disagree with him or me, you're damned. You're literally looking at eternal damnation. And that's just a level of discourse I'm not comfortable with, because once you believe the person you're competing against is not just wrong, but evil, it justifies almost any kind of action, including violence. And so it makes me uncomfortable.
Sure, and that's why the reason he got suspended off Sirius XM, and more and more I have to say I agree with it, because it's the premeditated nature of it. He's powerful. He's got tens of millions of listeners. He's messed with me hardcore. I mean, like not even the government's done this much stuff as people have told me back behind the scenes, and I've experienced losing the affiliates and you know, the sponsors and stuff with him personally trying to lean on me over the years. And I can't prove all of that, but he's attacked me and said I'm dangerous and said I shouldn't be on the air and stuff like that. So he's on record with some of it. He moved to Texas where I'm at. I mean, he copies a lot of stuff we do, but twist it. But he said once, you know, let me on the stage with Trump, I'm going to stab him a bunch. I wouldn't stop. Then he said, oh, I didn't mean that about Trump. And then he has this other guy on to say, well, we mean this hypothetically, but somebody needs to take him out, Trump. And it's the sneakiness of it that makes it so creepy. He's not just talking about killing Trump. He's trying to, like, say, somebody needs to take care of this problem. Okay, yeah, he needs to die, but we need to watch how we say it. And this is a guy with hundreds of millions of dollars, or at least he used to have it. That's dangerous.
Well, and also in this moment, which is a very combustible moment, I mean, anybody paying any attention at all can see where this is going. There have been outbreaks of violence at Trump events. There are going to be more, unfortunately. I hope it's not going to happen, but I suspect, and everyone watching suspects, that it will. This is exactly the moment when you need to kind of pull back a little bit. Let's not talk like that, because there are an awful lot of crazy people out there, as you well know, and some of them are right on the edge of action.
I was joking saying I'm one of them, but you know what? We were talking earlier about being a little bit crazy. I don't act on it, and I'm in control of my eccentric side. These other people tend to get some power, and they get more eccentric until they go off into la la land. And I'm personally worried that Glenn Beck has something like a borderline personality disorder. I personally, you know, in study and life have researched that. Let's just say I read a few books on it and talked to some psychologists about it, but because I know some folks that have it. And let me tell you, there's some things that they diagnose that don't exist, like, you know, oppositional to authority disorder or whatever. But let me tell you, schizophrenia, things like people that are OCD, agoraphobia, borderline personality disorders are basically like a grab bag of all that. And if you experience it, folks, you start recognizing it. And I think Glenn Beck really ought to get some medical help. I'm serious.
Well, I think what all of us need in order to maintain sanity is to have a small group of people whom we trust, who have our best interest at heart, and whom we listen to. carefully and act on their advice. I mean, you know, you meet these
Soundboards.
people.
We need to bounce things off folks.
Well, of course, people that you actually listen to, whose opinions you care about. You know, I only have 3 or 4 people in my life whose opinions I really listen carefully to. But if 2 or more of them tell me to do something, I do it because I know that they're
Same
wise.
here. If my mom, my dad, my
Right.
cousin Buckley, and a few other people all of a sudden say something, I know I'm wrong, and I go, okay. But that's only a couple times a year.
That's exactly. I've had that exact experience. And the funny thing is, in my life, one of them is named also Buckley, my brother Buckley.
I know you've come and visited us and hung out. You're a great guy, and you were just blown away. Wait, Buckley's really named Buckley.
I know. Well, I've never met. I have a son and a brother named Buckley, and I had a grandfather named Buck. I've never met anybody else with that name. But
well, he has a name that sounds like it's something right out of the Wolf of Wall Street, you know, the Oat Monk Stratley or whatever. But with him, we've tracked back both our family names, but then they were fans of William F. Buckley as well, his dad and mother, so that was the coup de grace. But the Buckley and the Stratton and the Hammond, those are all family names connected. So, yeah, who knows?
That's amazing.
Might be related. I don't know. But Now, again, Tucker Carlson here. We're looking at a massive climate of censorship. It's clearly intensifying.
Yes.
They're calling for it in Europe. Facebook's working with them in Europe doing it. So when Facebook says, oh, we've just got a few employees doing this, I don't really buy it. I mean, we've been given the 3-day suspensions for really simple stuff like sending out a link that Navy SEALs sent out about Benghazi saying, you know, she didn't act and they died with just photos of their faces.
Rob Dew reporting for INFOWARS.com. And as you can see behind me, we're in the ruins of Castle Wolfstein. This is a medieval castle built on a large hill overlooking the town of Newmark, and I'll give you a shot of that in 1 second. But we were here today because we got a tip from, I guess, an InfoWarrior sent me an email saying there's a refugee center, and they gave me the address. We actually drove in there. We had our body cameras rolling this time because, as you know, yesterday when we were in Munich and we approached the refugee center, a whole crew of blue shirt people, blue shirt clad people came out, got in our face, were putting their hands in front of our cameras and just very angry that we were there, just wanting to see what was going on and how many people, migrants, were at that center. This was a much smaller house, and we have a full interview with actually one of the Syrian migrants. Came over and talked to us, and we interviewed him for about 20 minutes. He spoke okay English, okay German, and we had a pretty interesting conversation. So I think people are going to be really interested in listening to that. But here around me, you could see it's got really thick walls. There's a big tower here, which it looks like it was recently rebuilt, and on top they have some antennas and I guess you know, cellular functions and stuff like that. This is a very high point in the area. You could see, Josh, let's get a shot of this. You can see you have a view of the entire surrounding area. So if you were to have invaders coming or anything, you could see what was going on. And over there is the town of Newmarket. There's about 40,000 people living there. And when we talked to the refugee, his name was Mohammed, he said there's about 1,000 migrants in this city, and they don't feel welcome in the city. He said for various reasons, people look at them, and he didn't seem to understand why. I tried to talk to him about that and asked him a lot of different questions. So it's going to be an interesting interview. We're going to have that. We're actually on our way to Dresden, Germany today. We started off in Munich, went to some migrant centers there, met with the head of the German Freedom Party, and we have that interview coming up as well. We shot those on the iPhone, so those take a little, or on the Canons, so those take a little bit of time to get edited down, put the articles on, make it look really good, and put those up. But those will be coming up soon. But we're on our way to Dresden, Germany. Tonight, at about 6:30 in the evening, there's going to be a large protest, an anti-immigration protest that'll be taking place. They say between 3,000 and 20,000 people could show up. And with Bilderberg happening just in the next couple days, it's sure to be a raucous event. All right, Rob Dew here for InfoWars.com. We are in downtown Dresden, very near where the Bilderberg meeting is going to take place in just a few short days. And there's an anti-immigration rally going on. We heard about this yesterday from Michael Stutzenberger, who's actually one of the speakers here. He's with the German Freedom Party. And I'd say there's probably 300 to 400 people here now. Maybe even more. It's looking pretty big. So I don't know exactly what they're saying. But we're going to go check it out. Pretty heavy police presence. You can see they got some kind of camera with some stuff on it. Probably gonna get mad if I film that.